I don't think a split party is the problem. I think high oil prices will be a problem. I think the 2026 elections already, we are behind the eight ball as far as the electoral process. I think if you add in high gas prices, high oil prices, and if we are still bombing Iran with kinetic action, people don't want to call it war, but if there's still kinetic action that causes oil to be over $100, I think you're going to see a disastrous election.
Now, bearing in mind that he seems to be on our side, that he doesn't want the war, don't shut up with the kinetic action. Like, stop, just call it a war. I don't want to, we're not interested in kinetic action. This isn't like a video game, like a retro 80s video game or something. It's a goddamn war and it is serious. That said, he's one of the few Republicans that's very openly speaking out against it. And I'll take any counterbalance we can get to Lindsey Graham. So I guess that's good. And by the way, he's the one doing the interview, but he is indicating that there are more Republicans who are very worried about the effects of this. Not like the dead civilians, they don't care too much about that, but they are worried about the political and economic consequences of this. And so you have, in addition to Rand Paul, you have Senator John Boozman, Republican of Arkansas, saying things in Iran are certainly exacerbating things like gasoline prices. I am worried about them. That's something that makes a huge difference with our economy. Let's see, you have Senator Tom Tillis saying gas drives the affordability issues. Yeah, it's easy to forget if you're a regular person, but when gasoline goes up, basically everything that needs to be transported goes up, and that's everything. Every product is going to be, especially if it's internationally and they just ship it over in a boat or fly in a plane, 30% higher gas is going to be at least 30% higher products. And I'll remind everyone, this is like John's rule of political economy. When there is an actual reason for inflation to happen, there will always also be like dishonest reasons for inflation to happen because inflation is happening and they want to make money. So you have John Husted, this is Republican of Ohio, saying, I'm not going to get into that right now about gas prices. I'm not going to answer that kind of a question. Senator Jim Risch said as well. Well, like, okay, you don't have to answer the journalist questions, but I feel like your constituents are going to have a couple of sharply worded follow-up questions for you as well. And by the way, even over at the White House, they are kind of hoping that Donald Trump is going to find an off-ramp from this soon. Some of Trump's advisors in recent days have encouraged him to articulate a plan to extract the US from the war and make the case that the military has largely achieved its objectives, according to people familiar with the matter. While many in the president's conservative base still support the initial operation, some of the president's advisors have privately expressed concerns that a longer war could deplete that support. And you can see that it's not like they're starting from a position of strength. Here's like a bunch of our foreign military adventures, not all of them. We get up to a lot of stuff as a country, but compared to many of them, this is the least popular. And that was on day one, a day one that went pretty smoothly. And things have gotten a lot more complicated since then in terms of the military response from Iran throughout the region, as well as the fact that oil prices have shot up. And more so than just shooting up, oil prices have been wildly chaotic over the past few days, which that in itself is bad for the economy. So the hope is, Sharon, that he can just say, mission accomplished. We won, we accomplished our objectives. And I will say it will be a little bit easier than usual to claim that since nobody knows what the objectives are. And that said, even me as a critic, and I'll end on this, I have to give him credit. Like, he wanted to get rid of Iran's hardline Ayatollah, and he did that. And he got a younger, more hardline one, and he drove up the price of gas, which is flooding Russia's coffers with funds exactly at the time they could use that money to help press their advantage in Ukraine. And it's depleted American arms. And the fact that will be tacoing because of like the Strait of Hormuz and all that also indicates to Iran that if they were to get up to something in the future, we've already shown that we don't have the stomach for an extended conflict. So even the threat of doing that, which we used to have, we don't have anymore. And some American soldiers died. And we wasted a bunch of money. So yeah, pretty big success, Sharon. What do you make of it? And do you think he will declare victory to help stem some of this political damage?
I think he'd like to. I mean, he's a nincompoop. But that said, what about his lover, Israel? He's in a disgusting extramarital affair with Israel. And they're not going to let go of him. It's like that Fatal Attraction movie with Glenn Close and Michael Douglas and a boiled rabbit on the stove. Israel's already said the only victory here is going to be if we just decimate them and don't leave them with a structure or a government in place. And the captured Lindsey Graham is saying the same thing. Oh, we can't get out now. So Israel's not, no matter who's in his ear saying, we got to get out of here, we got to get out of here. Israel's going to make it real difficult for the United States to extract itself from this war. They are Glenn Close. They're boiling the rabbit, and we've only seen the beginning. There's no easy off ramp here by just saying, well, we did it, we won. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, you don't think so? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, look, they ended the first one. Hey, Trump could say, I ended 9 wars. He would like that. That's a strong incentive. By the way, I haven't seen that movie, so I apologize. I don't necessarily get the reference, but
get your popcorn and don't watch it alone.
2 more quick things in the chat. Somebody pointed out, where's Tulsi? Yeah, she would really like this conflict to go away so she could come out of her bunker. It's getting musty in there. But anyway, and I just want to end with this. Well, I think we'll play the video tomorrow on the show. It happened right before we went live. Senator Roger Marshall said, yeah, gas prices are going up. That's just a sacrifice the American people are going to have to make. Senator Roger Marshall, if I could give you some advice, please keep talking exactly like that. Please keep telling the American people to make a sacrifice that notably you, as a rich a-hole, are not having to make, and that they 100% did not sign up for. Say more of that as we cruise towards the midterms, please.
You raised the question of Jeffrey Epstein in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think you've got a problem. I mean,
what do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it.
Yeah, so Donald Trump has been dogged by claims about his obvious friendship that he had, best friendship that he had with his bro, Jeffrey Epstein, for some time. And he's implied for a very long time that he didn't know anything about what Jeffrey Epstein was doing when they were friends for years and years and years and years and years, and shared sexual jokes with each other and sexual gifts with each other and partied with each other and all of that stuff. And that was always difficult to believe, but it has become increasingly difficult to believe with all of what's being released in the Epstein files. First of all, we know that Donald Trump apparently was interviewed by the FBI after Jeffrey Epstein was first arrested. And in that, he claimed that, oh yeah, no, I knew he was a bad guy, but for some reason decided not to turn him in. But now we're finding out more, including, this is a pretty bombshell claim, that Donald Trump might have been on the phone with Epstein as Epstein assaulted one of his many victims. So this comes, by the way, this revelation, as Pam Body's DOJ are getting caught once again having removed documents from the releases that are related to Donald Trump. So as with many of these revelations, this is coming from memos by the FBI. And so this woman told investigators that Epstein was on the phone with Trump when she arrived at his Upper East Side lair, her third visit to the home. Epstein told the woman to hurry upon arrival, saying, let's go, according to an FBI memo. This is directly from the FBI memo. Epstein got on the massage table and was on a speakerphone call with Donald Trump. The victim started getting undressed and they started massaging him. The victim started massaging Epstein's feet and pointed to his back. From there, Epstein's accuser alleged that he grabbed her hand and pulled her on top of him. Now, they say that it is unclear how the woman knew Trump was on the line, although I could hazard a guess that Epstein called him Donald, and he was a major celebrity at this time. His voice would be fairly recognizable. But anyway, he at that point was in a relationship with Melania Trump, but not yet married to her. We also don't know whether he knew what was occurring on the other end of the line, although it is speakerphone. And if that sort of thing is happening, one would think there would be some sort of vocalizations or noises or whatever. So this doesn't necessarily prove that Donald Trump knew what was going on. But by the way, it is also another reminder, assuming that it happened, that Epstein was very comfortable with Donald Trump. If he feels that he can assault a woman while on the phone with him, that means he's not worried about Donald Trump finding out that he's assaulting someone. One potential explanation would be that Donald Trump already knows that he's assaulting people, so just bear that in mind. Now, here is another sick aspect of this story, and that is Carolyn Leavitt's statement about the woman that we just referenced. She said, these are completely baseless accusations backed by zero credible evidence from a sadly disturbed woman who has an extensive criminal history. Now look, I can just say that if you just take the bare text of that, that is a terrible way to address a woman that she knows nothing about. But if you were watching the show yesterday, that may ring a bell. And do you know why? Because that is word for word the statement she put out about the woman who alleges that Donald Trump sexually assaulted her when she was 13. It is the exact same statement to the word, as if Carolyn Leavitt wanted to make sure you knew that she does not give a damn about what these women say, what might have happened to them, what Donald Trump, her boss, might be and might have done. She wants to make sure you know that she doesn't give a goddamn about it. That's my interpretation, Sharon. What do you think?
I think you're exactly right. And I'm done expecting women like Miss Leavitt to be on our side, okay? We're talking about a child who says she was trafficked. We know Jeffrey Epstein trafficked, well, we know that. Some people are still claiming that. There were no people, no clients, no one. It just was stuff going on that was really creepy. It's disgusting. Her defamation, which perhaps not in the legal sense, what do I know? But the way she's describing people who have been treated in just disgusting terms, I don't get. I really don't get. It used to be when Bill Clinton was being accused and the whole Monica Lewinsky thing, that you had someone in George Stephanopoulos who defended him, sure, but was disgusted and later left. Now you just have people who, no matter what comes out, will always back the filth.
Yeah.
They're filth backers, and she's among the upper echelon of them.
Yeah, just completely without empathy. And I will say, to draw a contrast, you know how much empathy I have for women who've gone through this? I hope that if, knock on acrylic, if at some point Carolyn Leavitt finally reveals what Donald Trump has almost certainly said to her behind closed doors, I hope that if she reveals what is almost certainly a pattern of sexual harassment from Donald Trump, I hope that Carolyn Leavitt is treated with infinitely more empathy than she has treated every single one of the many women that have made these claims against her boss before her. That's my empathy. In any event, let's turn now to another aspect of this story. If you, like many Americans, remain unconvinced about the official story about how Jeffrey Epstein died in jail, well, we have even more new information that's going to suggest that there might well have been a cover-up. And there are, bear in mind, a lot of questions that people have still had about what happened in that prison, why it is that every single thing failed in exactly the right way to make it so that we can't know for sure how it is that he died. But anyway, one basic one is that if Epstein was murdered, because more and more suspicious details are coming out. I want to turn to some of those, and you might have seen some of this going around. We wanted to make sure that, like, we didn't want to initially report on it just as soon as it came out. We wanted credible sources to look into it, and they have. So apparently, one of the guards Googled Epstein just before his body was found, and also had suspicious bank deposits around that same time. Now, those are not necessarily linked, and neither of them / both of them are necessarily evidence of a crime, but it is interesting. And so let's start with the guard. We're also going to turn to an inmate who had a pretty, like a bombshell to reveal as well. So the guard, Tova Knoll, who later admitted to falsifying records about Epstein's death, twice Googled latest on Epstein in jail in the hour before his body was discovered in a cell. A copy of her online history included in the file shows. The former guard completed the online search at 5:42 a.m. local time and again at 5:52 a.m. on August 10th, according to the files. Epstein's body was found by fellow guard Michael Thomas less than 40 minutes later. Now, both those two, Knoll and Thomas, were charged with falsifying prison records to make it seem as though they had performed required checks on Epstein before he was found dead. Prosecutors later dropped the charges against them, citing a plea deal. We'll turn to the money in a second, but I just want to point out one thing. So, you Googling him by itself does not mean that something shady is happening. However, let's assume that nothing shady happened. What would be an alternative explanation as to why you're Googling him? Well, okay, he's a famous man, a notorious criminal. He's in your prison. Maybe it's not suspicious. Maybe it's just that you are fascinated with him and really interested in what's going on with him. The issue with that alternative explanation is, if you're that interested in him, why aren't you doing the checks on him? Like, we're supposed to believe this person is simultaneously obsessed with details about Epstein and just can't get up and walk down the hallway to see him. I'll just Google it. That seems to me to be hard to imagine. And then there's the money. So for Knoll, the person who did the Googling, more than a dozen deposits to her account starting in April 2018 were flagged by Chase Bank in a suspicious activity report. The largest deposit of $5,000 was made on July 30th, 2019, just 10 days before he died. Now again, that doesn't mean anything necessarily, but like, I feel like they could look into it a little bit. I feel like Pam Bondi could have not like rushed out 8 months ago and been like, we're good, we're done with this thing. And then Blanche did the same thing. It feels like this merits a follow-up, Sharon, but what do you think?
You think? I mean, if Chase, who was knee deep in this thing too, flagged it, you could at least follow the money here. And it doesn't seem like there's a willingness, a want to even do that. And it also seems like and I don't know much about the plea deal that was offered to these guards. On the one hand, you're always charging low-hanging fruit, but never wanting to go any higher than that. But on the other hand, if they know more, now would be the time for us to, well, it's overdue, figure out what else went on there.
Yeah, I would. Could we have an interview? Could we have the FBI? I feel like there's a lot more that could be done. Now, we just want to briefly mention, you should definitely look this up. There's also an inmate who told the FBI that they woke in the special housing unit where he and Epstein were both jailed to hear officers shouting, "Breathe, breathe." And then one officer say, "Dudes, you killed that dude." A female guard allegedly then said, "If he is dead, we're gonna cover it up and he's gonna have an alibi. My officers." The inmate said fellow inmates later blamed Noel for Epstein's death. So again, like, that's an inmate who's making this claim years after it happened. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. And there's a couple of ways that you potentially could interpret what was said regardless. But again, there's a lot that would theoretically lead this band of vipers in the Trump administration who all postured as wanting to get to the bottom of this. It doesn't look like they even entered the top of it. I want to remind everybody about a partnership that TYT is doing with Noble Mobile, the only wireless plan that pays you to use your phone less. You can get their Noble plan for $50 a month. That is unlimited data. And in the end, you'll likely end up paying less because the data that you don't use at the end of the month gets credited back to your account as cash back. You can go to tyt.com/switch to find out more. And with that, let's turn now to election results. They just had a special election to fill the departing Marjorie Taylor Greene seat in Congress. And what do you know? A Democrat won. Kind of. They haven't, they're going to go to a runoff, but a Democrat got the most votes, which is fascinating. And that has led to a lot of headlines saying the Democrats could potentially take this seat. And I love that idea. I think that would be awesome. And the candidate, the Democrat in this particular case, who has run multiple times, has been doing a great job of trying to flip that seat. That said, I remain incredibly pessimistic about whether that's actually going to happen, but I love the idea. And I hope it does, and I want to put that positive energy out into the universe. But here are the actual results, and you can see Sean Harris, the Democrat, at the top of the pack, a couple percentage points more than Clayton Fuller, the winning Republican. The issue, though, is that if you then look at all of the other candidates, there is one other Democrat who got 1.5% of the vote, but there's also 25% that went to other Republicans. And I would just remind everyone, it is a wildly Republican district. Like Sean Harris has fought a good fight. Sean Harris failing to flip that seat is not necessarily the result of doing a bad job. It's a really red seat. You know how red it is? They elected Marjorie Greene. They thought that was acceptable. That is how conservative it is. Now, it could still happen. The runoff will be in a little bit less than a month. That is April 7th, and it is to serve out the remainder of Greene's term. They'll have their own regular election for the next term. But let's compare the results here to Greene in 2024, when she won after running and raising money and telling everyone that she desperately wanted to be a part of Congress. And then after like 6 months, she was like, I don't actually want to do this. I'm just going to leave or whatever. It's always amazing to me when people do that. But anyway, she won by damn near 30 points. So as I said, it is a very Republican field, but there is one other bit of good news here, which is that Donald Trump made an endorsement, and it wasn't for the Democrat, shockingly. No, it was for Clayton Fuller. And hey, good news for Trump, Clayton Fuller did win, but like he didn't clear the field. He didn't even get the most votes, and that is after getting Donald Trump's endorsement. So I have no doubt that if you go to Truth Social right now, Donald Trump's like, my endorsement won out. But like, did it really have any effect at all? I don't know. And we do know why he wants Clayton Fuller. Clayton Fuller said that he wants to triple the budget for immigration and customs enforcement and nominate every single ICE agent for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Now, if you nominate every agent, that includes the agents who have gunned down innocent Americans. But that's the sort of weird supplication you do to get Donald Trump's endorsement. By the way, tripling the budget, it already has a bigger budget than most of the world's militaries. He wants to triple it to what, like $500 billion a year? Don't put it past him. He just may try to do that. Anyway, Sharon, what do you make of this?
Look, I was watching very closely overnight, trying to see who would get to that runoff. I don't know what's going to happen here. Donald Trump's endorsement doesn't mean a lot, except these days it could be a negative. And so we just have to wait and see. I like the Democrat in this race, his name recognition and all of it, and he's changed his behavior some too. He used to be staunch in a way where he was just all, I'm this military guy, I'm this and that. And now he's seems to be reaching out to casting a wider net. So hopefully that'll sway some people who are already paying too much for gas and the like. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. And by the way, I mean, like maybe he doesn't win, but maybe he loses by 20 points or 15 points or so. It could be still an indication of changes that are happening. And by the way, I think it was in New Hampshire. There was another special election for a state legislature, and it went to the Democrats, even though it was a seat that Trump had won by like 10 points or whatever, or that district he had won. And it was the 10th consecutive special election that went the Democrats' way. Now, don't get complacent, but it is good news that people seem to really be wanting a change with all that they're seeing. You know that your marquee issue is failing when in the space of just 1 year, you've gone from putting it on your signs and in your campaign ads to telling your own site to like, could you just shut up about that? We don't actually want to talk about that. People don't like it. And here I'm talking about mass deportations. Oh, you heard a lot in 2024 about mass deportations. At one point on the campaign trail, Trump told Time magazine he planned to deport 15 to 20 million undocumented immigrants, which is notably a larger number than the actual number of immigrants in the country illegally. So of course, he was lying about how many immigrants there are, how many commit crimes. He was lying about basically every part of this. And so once he gets in, he can't make good on his promises because they were based on lies, and he's terrible at his job, and they're wasting a lot of money, and they're gunning down people. And so now we get to today where they don't want to talk about mass deportation anymore. It doesn't poll well enough. So White House Deputy Chief of Staff James Blair privately urged House Republicans just earlier this week to stop emphasizing mass deportations and instead focus their messaging on removing violent criminals, which notably is a thing that they have been bashing us over the head with for a year. So I don't even know if that's a great political strategy. You guys have already tried that. People don't buy it. We don't think that you're focusing on getting violent criminals. I talked earlier this week about the fact that they had taken a couple of young mariachis, award-winning mariachis, who had been brought to the Capitol because of how good they are. They detained them. Now the update is that thankfully, they have been released, those young mariachis, and thank God. That's why we covered it. We were hoping that if everybody talked about it, they'd be released, and they have been. That's the good news. But there's been a lot of crimes committed by ICE, and I remember how enthusiastic they were about this. I was on the floor of the RNC. I saw these signs being held up by the hundreds. I remember seeing Usha Vance speaking to a crowd of white people holding mass deportation signs up and thinking, this seems uncomfortable a little bit. And so there has been a lot of change, and the reason is that people don't like it. 49% of Americans say that Trump's mass deportation campaign is too aggressive. That includes 20% of people who voted for Trump in 2024. And so good news that they're changing. I hope that the policy actually changes too, Sharon. What do you think?
Well, I don't know that the policy is going to change. It may die down for a moment. And I think the numbers are very telling here. They shouldn't talk at all about deportation anymore because, as you said, they lied, they muddied the waters. They said everybody they arrested was a violent criminal. They arrested American citizens. They killed some and called them domestic terrorists. So anytime they utter the word deportation, okay, you don't even need to put mass in front of it. The American people are rightly skeptical and do not see that as any kind of alignment with what's right or with what we want. So I think they're in a real jam. Changing the way they talk about it, I think they should just not shut up about it completely.
Yeah. I mean, they try to convince us that like the twerking frog was a criminal. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I also think in terms of shutting up about it, like, sometimes the dog chasing the car catches it, that whole thing. So like they wanted to outlaw abortion. Okay, so you won. You won. I mean, people hate it. They didn't support you, but you won, and now you can't run on that anymore. You wanted to stop every goddamn migrant from coming in or whatever, based on a bunch of lies. But okay, you clamped down on the border, so now you can't really talk about it theoretically. And I think that they're kind of flailing. That's why Texas Republicans were like, Sharia, I guess. Maybe they start talking about trans people again. Like, what are they going to talk about, Sharon?
I wouldn't go there with the trans people either. When you're dealing with Americans who have so much pain points, so many pain points in their lives, whether it's gas, whether it's, food insecurity, they can't pay the rent, all of it is just, we're people who had a lot of time for these culture wars are less interested now because they're far too busy just trying to survive and breathe. So good luck with that one too. That's what happens when you don't do real issues and you run on things that divide people so that you can steal from us. At some point, you might run out of things to talk about because we're all in this together. We're all losing now.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, I think that's all the time that we have for the program. As always, Sharon, thank you for being here. Thank you for making it a Big News Wednesday. I really do appreciate it.
Appreciate you more. Great show.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for being out there, for following along. We really appreciate it. There's a lot going on. The news can be rough, but we try to have fun with it, and you are a big part of that fun. With that said, more fun will be coming tomorrow because Trey Crowder is going to be back on the program.
Shad, Richie, good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today, breaking down news of Tehran Von Gasser. We're always fascinated to have his analysis on the program. Top story of the day, Lindsey Graham, he's going to send your kids, specifically from South Carolina, to fight in the war that has nothing to do with the United States of America. Here it is.
What I want you to do in the Mideast, our friends in Saudi Arabia and other places, step forward and say, this is my fight too.
In your happy war-mongering ass to the war zone yourself. I'm sure you could. He won't let you forget his allegiance for even a second. Here it is.
To all the anti-Semites, to all the isolationists, I don't believe. Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I will be with Israel to our dying day. They're the best ally.
Sir, I thought you said you had an American first agenda. As a matter of fact, when you did an about face and started to support Trump and MAGA, you proclaimed it was because they have an American first agenda. And by the way, you're not tricking people who military murderous complex is not the same as your support of the people of Israel. Very different connotation. All right, put them up full bands. It's a damn shame. There you go. All you got to do is check the bank account. He reportedly helped sell Trump on the war in Iran, according to the reports. To help make the case on Iran, Graham traveled several times to Israel in recent weeks, meeting with members of the country's intelligence agency. Quote, they'll tell me things our own government won't tell me. Let me read that again. They'll tell me things our own government won't tell me. And that's very interesting, Lindsay, because you have not reported back to us what they allegedly told you. So now you are a holder of government secrets from Israel that pertain to the United States of America. Let's continue. They'll tell me things our own government won't tell me, he said. He spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, coaching him on how to lobby the president for action. Netanyahu showed the president intelligence that persuaded Trump to go ahead, Graham said. Anna Paulina Luna wants to send Graham to the front lines. So we have Republican on Republican fire here. She tweeted, quote, there are some in the Senate that advocate for war everywhere. Lindsey Graham is one of them. He does not tell the president what to do, nor does he control Congress. I have spoken with the administration a number of times, as well as other members of Congress over the last week or so. And nothing has changed regarding boots on the ground. No boots on the ground. If Senator Graham wants to go fight in a foreign conflict, let him be the first volunteer. Okay. Once again, Trump gave the order. Lindsey Graham, as ridiculous as he is, and we all know that there's not a brown country he doesn't want to bomb. Lindsey Graham is providing commentary. Megyn Kelly providing commentary as well. Here's more Republican on Republican fire. So she tweeted, quote, when did Lindsey Graham become our president? In the past 24 hours, he's threatened Lebanon, Cuba, the Saudis, and wider Arab region. And now, checks notes, Spain. Let's get real. The problem with Lindsey Graham isn't just that he's a homicidal maniac. It's that Trump likes and is listening to him, and Trump's favorite channel is parading him around like a Hefner bunny in stockings on every show. Very bad visual analogy. Now, Megyn, over 10 years, you worked for that same news channel and provided your audience with those same lies. And you have admitted it on your program, saying that you now know better and you should not have done it. Lindsey, once again, I have no love for the guy, is providing commentary, just like you. Trump is the actual killer who said yes to the bombing, who bears, I would assume, more responsibility in your commentary about murderous maniacs than Lindsey. But because you are still a feckless coward, Megyn Kelly, you cannot bring yourself to call your president what he actually is. And so instead of calling it straight out, you decide to use the proxy element of people like Lindsey Graham and others and dissuade blaming Trump personally, professionally, presidentially, and directly. Shame on you. All right, dear brother, thoughts here.
Well, Dr. Ritchie, I must say that as a person who knows firsthand about the atrocities in Iran, I'm not so much upset at Senator Lindsey Graham, or I'm not so much upset at the war in Iran as I am about Senator Lindsey Graham, as we've heard from two of his compatriots, Representative Anna Luna and, of course, Megyn Kelly. When they're going against you, then you're probably thinking something wrong. And the reason why no one's tweeting or saying, hey, Senator Lindsey Graham, why don't we send your kids into war first, is because he doesn't have any kids. So maybe he doesn't know what it is, or he doesn't know the horrendous tragedy that war represents. War should be a last resort, not a first condition. And even though we are clearly in last resort territory when it comes to the Islamic Republic, what we see are people wanting to go to war, not so much for the justice or the inhumanity the Islamic Republic represents, but because of their own financial gain, whether it's money from lobby groups or money that they are looking for in the future when it comes to oil, minerals, and natural gases that Iran represents. That's problematic. When we're looking at dollar signs as the reasons and not the injustice that's been going on in Iran for 47 plus years, that's problematic. When we're looking at what the lobby group can do for me and not what I can do for the lobby group mentality, where a lot of the things going on in that region of the world is because of things that the United States has set into motion, that is problematic. We've made mistakes before. And as George Bush, President Bush, we all look back now and go, man, what happened to that guy? Wasn't he great? As he said, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me again, shame on, I don't remember what he said. And he messed that quote up too. So don't mess this up. This is about a nation. It's about a country. It's about an ideology. And more importantly, it's about the safety and future of the entire world. Do not let United States go into a war haphazard and we create another Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, Syria, Vietnam, North Korea, go down the list. Do not let that happen because of a Senator Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, and because of the groups that are backing him financially and telling him to say this. A man praying on an airplane is accused of being a terrorist. He gets arrested for being, well, a holy, righteous individual who keeps his prayer time. Here it is.
Let's go. Stand up. Everybody heads down. Stand up. Stand up.
It's a damn shame. Put it at full mass. Southwest Airlines. A man was removed from a Southwest flight when attempting to pray peacefully for Ramadan. On Friday night, passengers aboard a Southwest Airlines flight from Nashville to Fort Lauderdale were told to keep their hands up and heads down in response to a reported security threat. A person was removed from a flight out of Nashville that Friday after the plane was diverted to Atlanta following what officials described as a, quote, possible security matter, end quote. However, News 2 spoke with passengers who said they didn't know why the plane changed destination until they were grounded. The thread in question, NBC News reported that the incident had to do with a passenger who had set a timer on his phone so that he could pray for Ramadan, the holiest month of the Islamic calendar. A spokesperson for the FBI in Atlanta said there was no credible threat and no charges will be filed. The story spread rapidly, obviously on social media, with claims that the man was a terrorist who had been threatening the president. Amanda Parrish, a passenger on the plane, says that is simply not true. Quote, when I started seeing all the comments, quote, this terrorist should have been arrested. He was saying death to America, death to Trump. I'm like, no, he was not, Parrish said. Parrish said the couple sitting next to the man told her he had been praying. Now, I want to take a moment just to say thank you to the passengers who decided to speak up on record, because it would have been easier, less conflict. You don't have to be concerned about people putting you in a narrative adversely if you just say nothing. But those passengers who saw an injustice being done to a man they had never met, they do not know, they have no personal connection, nor do they have a personal responsibility to that person other than their own responsibility to humanity. They decided to say something. Thank you. Thank you. There's more. Quote, she said he was reading something on his phone, which was probably Muslim prayer. She said it was like a prayer, and he had a timer on his phone, which made them uncomfortable, Parrish said. Tennessee's American Muslim Advisory Council says setting an alarm to pray 5 times a day is common, especially during Ramadan, when Muslims break their fast after sunset. I'm going to get into the Southwest Airlines statement in just a moment. There are Muslims that I know, many in Atlanta. During Ramadan, they observe the holy calendar. And even the restaurants that are Muslim-owned will close during those prayer times. And if you happen to be a patron, you have to wait for that prayer time to expire for you to be served again. That's how serious it is for those who take it as a sacred opportunity to connect with the God of their understanding. There's more. Southwest Airlines, they later did release a statement, quote, the Southwest Airlines crew of Flight 2094 on Friday made the decision to divert to Atlanta out of an abundance of caution due to what turned out to be a misunderstanding of a customer's behavior. We sincerely apologize to our customers for the misunderstanding and the significant delay. Nothing is more important to Southwest than the safety of our customers. Now, I would disagree with that. We've reported on Southwest discriminating against others. All of them happen to be people, let's just say people of color. So Southwest releases a statement. Obviously, we know this has everything to do with racial bias, cultural bias, and the bias plays out in the most extreme way you can imagine. While being in flight on a plane, you pray people think you're a criminal or a murderer because you're praying, okay? That doesn't happen if that's a white male or white female. That doesn't happen if somebody is saying the Lord's Prayer. That doesn't happen under any other context other than this man being of his background, origin, race and culture and religion, saying a prayer during Ramadan. It's intolerance is what it is. And it's a bias that is innate inside of the individuals who are there. There's more. So this incident comes in the midst of rising Islamophobia that's happening around the country, really from our elected officials. Put it up. Representative Andy Ogles, Muslims don't belong in American society. Pluralism is a lie. What? Representative Andy Fine, if they force us to choose the choice between dogs and Muslims, it's not a difficult one. Once again, as Tim Scott would say, America is not a racist country. All right, dear brother, thoughts here?
Well, I must say, this one is very interesting because of what it represents. Obviously, it's indicative of this fear that's been caused and manufactured in many ways, and a sense of Muslims are others, when the truth is all people are welcome to the United States, and that's the founding infrastructure of what the United States and its system is supposed to represent. Now, I do want to know, was he praying in the middle of the aisle? Because that is a problem. Other than that, if he was praying at his seat, which is what it seems like he was doing, during the month of Ramadan, which is the holiest month, which is about rejuvenation, empathy, growth, self-discipline, self-spiritual awakening, arising, understanding charity, all these things of that nature, I don't understand what the problem is with someone praying at their seat. People do this all the time. What would happen if we started banning people because of Ash Wednesday and Ash walking around? What would happen if we started calling Jewish people walking around on Shabbat a gang and start banning that? These are things that are problematic of not only the idea of what America is, but the idea of its very single institution, the Constitution. First Amendment, freedom of religion. That is to practice. That is to be able to express your religion. It is what this nation was founded on. And if we start doing this now, what do we do later? This is a slippery slope. Religion is simply a tool. A hammer can be used to build a house or bash someone's head in. It says more about the person than it does about you. Southwest doesn't owe its passengers an apology. It owes this gentleman an apology for its passenger.
That's right. So very well said. And you make a great point, dear brother, because some of the commentary online has been, well, it's just a misunderstanding of culture. And the people who reported this, they're not necessarily bigoted. Well, if it happened to be a Jewish man praying in a native tongue, I don't think they divert the airplane and call a SWAT team in order to arrest them. I don't think that happens outside of the context of the intolerance that has been expressed and championed by many in the government, and obviously by many in American society. We'll bring updates to that story if there's an update to bring. going to make your blood boil. A man randomly shoots in a car, kills an 8-year-old child. Put it at full mask. That baby should be alive. Charles Montgomery Allen, a South Carolina man, began randomly firing at passing cars, turning what should have been an ordinary drive into the most unimaginable tragedy for one family. Allen pleaded guilty to 1 count of murder, and he pleaded guilty to 5 counts of attempted murder after he shot multiple people, including this 8-year-old Aquarius Kunum. The 8-year-old was from New Hampshire. Give you the background. May 28th, 2022, 44-year-old Allen armed himself with a rifle. He armed himself with a shotgun and randomly fired at multiple cars in his neighborhood in Florence, South Carolina. The New Hampshire Union leader reported the young Aquarius and his family were in town from New Hampshire visiting relatives and were sitting in a car when Allen fired on their vehicle. Aquarius was hit in the Aquarius was hit in the neck by a bullet. He later died after being taken off of life support. His father was shot twice, but survived. Allen was taken into custody by a SWAT team. So the Florence County Sheriff, T.J. Joel, told WBTW, quote, no motive, just probably meth up. He's had a history, end quote. Just a senseless act, another quote. Allen was sentenced to life in prison for murder, ordered to serve 5 consecutive 30-year sentences for the 5 counts of attempted murder he faced. Allen actually apologized, saying he wasn't in his right mind at the time of the shooting. His family members, who were also present at the sentencing, also apologized to the victims. Quote, the only thing I can offer are my prayers, end quote. Allen has been in jail for more than 3 years since his arrest. His attorney stated that he never requested bond after learning that he shot a child. Allen would not be eligible for parole due to the nature of his crimes. And while all of that is true and on record, it doesn't bring back Allen. It doesn't bring back the child, Aquarius. And while it seems as if Allen may have been a decent person outside of the meth or drugs or whatever was going on with his mind, there's some nuances here on that day that have to be discussed authentically. One, whatever was in you, sir, needed to be dealt with in a different way. Believing you are a good person because you don't do bad, but you have bad intentions inside of you, means you have not looked deep enough into the crevices and dark spaces of your own being. This is a journey that we all go through in humanity. Drugs, alcohol, it has a way of revealing who we really are. I know, because I'm now over 10 years clean and sober. So you dealing with it prior was your responsibility. Let me go to the next phase of this. How is it that the sheriff knows you have a history with meth, but you had access to the most deadly weapons in America? That becomes an issue that we have to deal with in society. And to the family, can't imagine the suffering and the pain. My prayers, positive vibrations and thoughts are with you from me and everybody else who watches this. All right, Tehran, thoughts here.
Well, first of all, of course, my condolences and prayers to the Kunum family for losing someone so young. That is heartbreaking in every single way. And to Charles Montgomery Allen, He deserves to be in jail, under the jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. This is a conversation we need to have, because while the judicial system got this one right, thankfully, what didn't it not get right is the idea that there should be no restrictions on the Second Amendment.
Right.
We have restrictions on other amendments, including freedom of speech and press and gathering and religion, which is the First Amendment. Now it is time to think about these Second Amendment restrictions. I am not against guns. I am not. I am not against the Second Amendment. I'm not against guns. I'm against the Charles Montgomery Allens of the world getting guns. And they seem to get the guns first. Is this not the time for proactive hyper awareness like we had in the case with the Muslim man simply praying on the plane? This is a time where, after the meth charges and the gun charges and the violent charges, this man should not have been in possession of a weapon. And we see what happened. Please, please, we are tired of sending our prayers and condolences to people lost so young. And why are the good taken so quickly? Yeah. The only silver lining in this was that Charles Montgomery Allen wasn't racist. He was shooting at all the cars. So all these anti-DEI people, this is what happens. It still ends up without DEI, that people of my color and darker are the ones to DIE.
Yeah, that's right. And to the family of the convicted, if you know the family, I want you to send this to them, because they said they can only offer their prayers. Here's what else you can offer. You can become an advocate for common sense policies as it relates to access of the most deadliest weapons in this country. You can do that in the memory of that 8-year-old. So you can do a little more than just pray, all right? Faith without works is dead, according to the scripture.
What'd you just call her?
I called her and is what I did.
My kid.
No, I called her.
My kid went too.
No, it's not about the fact that because I'm black, you said I don't have a dad. You said I don't have a dad.
Just so you.
This happened in Frisco, Texas.
Do you need some more? Why don't we call her? You know what? Why don't we call the Coke plug? Because I think you need a little more. The Coke plug. I think you need a little Coke. I think you do. And you just a crazy regularly? What? You're crazy all the time.
Okay. I have more video, but so far, the Karen in question has called a child an N-word according to the narrative. She is approached about this kind of behavior toward said child. It goes from bad to, well, worse. Here it is.
What you got?
Walk around here. Come on. You ain't got nothing in me.
She ain't got nothing.
I'm right here. About to walk in my yard. Right here. Wait.
No one's gonna do. You just called my daughter, who's a 12-year-old black girl.
She called me.
I don't think so.
Camera right here.
Pull your.
You don't think I got a gun? Oh. Oh. And you think?
You got a spirit on you. You know that, right? You have a demonic. You have a demonic attachment on you.
That's fine.
You know that. It's in your eyes.
I have spirit.
You can't stare at me. Like I said, you can't.
Okay.
Hey. Nobody wants to, and that's why you treat people like this.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Look at your poor dog. Don't even like you. He knows you're crazy.
Crazy. Y'all
No, my daughter called me.
Afford to be over here. Like,
Yes, we can.
Well, that escalated. Okay. So I'll put it at full mass. I mean, that's a scary look, man. This allegedly happened in Frisco, Texas. We do not have further details. Indisputable is requesting additional details to this. We saw enough to understand the gist of it. But damn. Tehran, when she threatened gunplay and lifted up her shirt to show her stomach and no gun, that was an interesting move there. I don't understand the goal of the Karen at that point, to show them she's not armed while saying she is in fact armed with a weapon. And why does she need a weapon for being called out for saying the N-word?
Well, first of all, Dr. Ritchie, how do we know she doesn't have Tourette's? We've seen this before in situations and award shows where people with Tourette's say a lot of different things. Maybe we should be more empathetic to her cause. Secondly, are we surprised that a Caucasian woman called anyone the N-word in the state of Texas? I don't know if that's I actually thought that was actually a mandatory recommendation for the city of Frisco. I felt like that's something you have to do in order to buy property there. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to check that up with the HOA. Lastly, why did she feel the need to use that word towards anyone? That's the important thing. She could have called that 12-year-old girl an entire calliope of different names, and we would have been okay with it. But that word coming from that person at that time, lifting her shirt to show her gut and no gun, maybe she just doesn't spell well. Maybe G-U-N sounded like G-U-T. I don't know. There's so many questions. You said we've seen enough, and I say, Dr. Ritchie, we haven't seen at all. I need more details. I need more details here. The one thing we know is that clearly the Karen in question was wrong.
Yeah, she was wrong. The 12-year-old child should have never experienced that. So obviously the family has to have a conversation as to why this happened, which is unfortunate because children change sometimes when they are faced with that kind of bigotry from an adult. And well, to the
her
Karen,
dogs didn't even like her. Her dogs didn't even like her. Just remember that dog, she probably calls her dogs the N-word. I did see a black dog in there. I'm just saying, Dr. Ritchie, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was a quick observation by the family who approached her. All right, we'll bring you updates if they send us an update to bring you. We've talked about Red Lobster on Indisputable before. Customer complaint, Red Lobster CEO, young black male, does the right thing. As a matter of fact, he has a history of making it right. One of the very few CEOs of a major company, in my opinion, who will go out of his way to do so. However, there's this situation where Red Lobster manager, according to the allegation, refused service to black customers. What was the result? Here it is.
I'm not seeing you guys, so it is what it is. You're more than welcome to call. Like I said, you can call. There's a business card on the front. You can call and speak to somebody about it, but I'm not having it. I'm not. Okay, well then you take it up however you want.
I want to know, what did she say?
She was rude.
What did she say to me? We wasn't in here, so I want to know what happened.
You guys again are arguing with me. I'm not. No,
louder than us. You're laughing. Look at your body language compared to our body language.
Once again, I'm not going to argue. I said no. That's it.
You said no?
Yeah. Well, this is going on Facebook, and then it's going to be sent to corporate because you're a very rude, ugly.
My face right here. See my face? Take a picture of it.
You're going on Facebook. You're really rude. You're really rude. That's really rude.
Please.
Come here.
Ooh, I have a job. She won't have a job tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. Remember my name. Spelled correctly.
What is it again?
Do not go back.
I triple. Yeah, call corporate now. Call them now while we're here.
She got fired. Put it up full mass. I mean, the hand clap at the, come on. The footage recorded inside the restaurant and uploaded Sunday night captures both the customers and the employee exchanging profanity after the employee reportedly refused service to a party of 15 people. According to the individuals involved, the group had been waiting for 40 minutes before the situation escalated. LaPree took to Facebook on March 8th to share her side of the story. Quote, granted, we're a lot of people, but be real. You're supposed to accommodate us. It was a 30-minute wait, no problem. We will wait, he wrote. My mom asked one question, and she, the manager, snapped, talking about how she will not be seating us. She was so rude. Corporate was called, and I'm going to go up there tomorrow. She will be fired, Red Lobster. These, the type of people y'all hire? End quote. Okay, you have a party of 15 people. When I was a waiter, I used to love that many people in a section. Number one, guaranteed mandatory minimum gratuity. Number one. Number two, you can always tap one of your colleagues to assist you, and you give them a percentage of your tip so that you can properly service the 15 people at the table. Number three, typically individuals with a party of 15, they tend to actually be a little more patient with the fact that you have to service a lot of individuals, including them, and you have great conversation. That has been my experience when I was a waiter myself. For the manager to deny that opportunity to the wait staff is insane to me. And the fact she's managing a company that deals in profit for food, and you deny people because they're going to bring too many dollars to the table. That's a bad business decision, manager. So the manager was reportedly fired. Red Lobster responded on Facebook, stating that they plan to, quote, take this matter seriously. According to a March 10th report by local news outlet Vineland Today, the manager was fired after the video went viral. She may have forgotten that this guy is the CEO of Red Lobster. There you have it. All right. Tehran, you're bringing too much money to the restaurant. There's too many people here.
Well, if I may, Dr. Richie, just say, first of all, big shout out to 35-year-old Red Lobster CEO and savior, black man, Damola Adamalotum, who has been the hero that we all needed but don't deserve. Thank you so much for saving Red Lobster. Number two, how do you even become a manager at Red Lobster if you don't serve Black people? Let's be very honest. I've been to many Red Lobsters, and the customers tend to skew Black, ma'am.
Yes.
Just letting you know. I would also not expect to be a manager at Popeyes and not like Black people. I wouldn't expect to be a manager at Trader Joe's and not like hippie whites. I mean, there are certain places that have certain demographics of customers that are your bread and butter. And speaking of bread and butter, no bread and butter is tastier than Red Lobster's. Why would a group of 15 not want Red Lobster?
Yeah.
I will say this. Maybe they came in right before closing. Maybe this wasn't race related. However, her language was extremely unnecessary. And looking at that manager, I'm going to be honest, Dr. Ritchie, being in the city that she's from, she's probably dating a Black guy. So I don't know if she's racist or just taking it out on them. Like, you remind me of my boyfriend's family. Y'all need to get out right now. So it's a conversation to be had, but it is a conversation about customer service. And business in this country is founded on customer service. So kudos to that family for doing the thing that they should do and protecting all other customers, if not all other Black customers. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. And I don't think it was close to closing because they had to wait 30 to 40 minutes to be told they're not being seated. Usually a person said, hey, too close to closing. Very thankful for the CEO, just as you said, and we look forward to more great things from the CEO in the hospitality management services arena. Our dear brother, who's been on this program multiple times, had to correct a colleague, a Republican, who said, basically, the Bible supports slavery, and we really should not be that hard on people about it. Let's go to Justin Pearson. Here it is.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill is about making sure that Tennessee students understand the ideas that gave birth to our nation. This legislation requires that at least once in middle school and once in high school, students are shown in a state-approved civics instructional video as part of their existing social studies instruction. The video must be historically accurate, free of political advocacy, and focus on explaining two things: the meaning of the Declaration of Independence, particularly the idea that our rights are endowed by our Creator, and the religious affiliation and moral beliefs of the founding fathers involved in the Articles of Confederation and the Constitutional Convention. This matters because today many of our students graduate without a clear understanding of where the idea of natural rights comes from and why our founders believed government must be limited. These ideas did not appear out of nowhere. They came from a worldview that believed human rights exist before government ever does. Yet a common myth has taken hold that our founders were largely atheist or deist or purely secular thinkers. The historical record shows otherwise.
I also am curious if your expectation and intention of this legislation will also be the paradox of America's foundation.
Representative Renaud.
Thank you for the question. As far as our founding fathers and those that owned slavery, it is important not to dilute history. We need to understand and know what that is so that we don't repeat those mistakes. But the Bible also says that we will be judged in the time of our culture. And at that time, it was a common practice. Not saying that's right or wrong. The Bible actually does instruct those who do own slaves on how to treat them and to treat them fairly and kindly. But our founding fathers definitely believe that all men were created equal, and it was those beliefs that moved us from the position of slavery to where we are today. So this particular legislation does not advocate to teach those things. I think we have many other pieces of civic education that likely does include that, but this intention for this legislation is for that to not necessarily be included.
Okay, we have more. I know everyone is a little shocked that a current elected official out of Tennessee is utilizing the Bible in order to justify slavery. The Bible has been utilized to justify slavery. Evil individuals will utilize scripture and anything else in order to further the evil. The Bible does not say you will be judged according to the cultural context in which you did the sin. That's not in there. But to set that aside, the irony of the illusion not being an illusion. The founding fathers wrote documents, had vigorous debate, but lived a particular lifestyle adverse to some of the values expressed in the written doctrine. It's easy to say all men are created equal when you do not believe a black man is a man. Get my point? So in that context, it's void of the contextual application of the era. These individuals want to create a truly diluted historical narrative of America. If you say all men are created equal and your meaning is humanity, why is it that black folk and women had no equal rights as white men? And white men had no equal rights if they didn't own land. Only white men who owned land could even vote under the Declaration of the Founding Fathers. So let's be 100 here. And they were the only ones who could run for office too. Okay, all right, here's our dear brother's response.
Well,
Representative Pearson.
It is nearly unconscionable to believe that you just articulated the theological vision of enslavers in this Capitol in the year 2026 as though it was okay. Because here's your problem. The Bible, which was written in many different iterations, but is articulating a time of thousands of years ago, was used as justification for enslavement that happened thousands of years later, 400 years ago in our country. And so even if you're trying to articulate, as you are incorrectly, that the Bible was somehow giving permission to slavery, that would have been in the era in which it was happening. It wouldn't be used as a theological justification just 400 years ago in our nation's history. But what is worse, and what is deeply disturbing by what you have just said is not how you are saying, and that was wrong or immoral. There is no question that slavery was immoral. And you shouldn't need a Bible to know that. And there were always people who were antithetical to the antebellum South's iteration of chattel slavery. The people who were enslaved, who were kidnapped from the continent of Africa and brought here against their will. And I am a Christian, and I am a 7th-generation Tennessean. I have read the Bible from front to back, and the stories about love, about who Christ is, about loving thy neighbor and loving God is what we are told to profess. So anyone who misused the Bible to enslave people, misused the Bible to keep people in bondage, they were wrong then as you are wrong now. I refuse to support this legislation because the lens by which you are viewing the world is toxic, is damning, is wrong, and is immoral. And you, my fellow colleagues, should do much more work in understanding the history of this country and understanding the history of enslavement and the consequences that it continues to wreak and the barriers it continues to create in this state and around the country. No one should ever be able to use Christianity as justification for the enslavement of people, especially not someone who has the audacity to call themselves a legislator.
Put up the picture full mass. Because the Bible, and when I say the Bible, I'm talking about the 66 books of the canonized version of the Protestant Bible that most refer to as Christian evangelicals in order to inform their legislative position. Because they utilize the Bible, and Jordan, keep those pictures up for me while I do this, I'm going to highlight a few things that may be shocking to some. One, the Bible that you are utilizing, the government gave you. The government gave you that. The government at that time was a religious-oriented or religiously oriented organization. You can call it the Catholic Church if you choose, but it was governmental in enterprise. They decided to pick and choose which books made it. That's why you have the Apocryphal, you have the Protestant 66 version, 66 books, the canonized version. You have the Ethiopian Bible that was around for 600-700 years prior to the canonization process. You have many versions of this Bible. You have the Gnostic Gospels, you have the Synoptic Gospels. It depends on what Bible you're talking about, because if you do one thing, one simple thing, and that's to get a book that only has the words of Christ, you will see very clearly he spoke against those same elements that you're talking about, clearly, with vigor, spoke against this Old Testament rule. Now, I try to keep it simple. I'm a Christian myself. I probably don't believe the way you believe in reference, and I'm talking to Michelle Renaud, who is the Republican. I don't believe that a book should dictate my faith, even if that book is called the Bible. God gave me a brain before he gave me a book. I don't believe that the great moral clarity of human existence and the way we treat each other should be based on what somebody wrote. It should be based on your higher calling and reality of who you are, because the more you see you, the more you can see others, unless you don't believe that others outside of you are worth it. It's not complicated. Pearson posted on X about the incident, writing, quote, "Sickening to hear a colleague seek to justify slavery with false ideology or false theology. The Bible never sanctioned America's chattel slavery. This misuse of the Bible and Christian faith was later used as justification after the kidnapping and dehumanization and economic exploitation began." In terms of the Republican's faith background, according to her official bio, quote, her father served in the U.S. Army for 26 years, where he met her mother in South Korea. Her mother worked as a seamstress in a rug factory. Her mother showed her the importance of knowing Jesus. The faith, or that faith in God, has been a cornerstone in her life ever since. Like her mother, Michelle has instilled timeless values in her children, such as love for family, country, the value of hard work, self-sufficiency, sacrifice, and love for God. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting. God is love. If you say you hate your brother, but love God whom you've never seen, you are a liar and the truth is not in you. That is in Scripture. That is in Scripture. And while we argue about the word Christianity, understand Yahshua, Jesus, the Christ, whatever you choose to call him, never brought you Christianity. Paul did. The Apostle Paul is the founder of the religion known as Christianity, or little Christ men. Before that, they were called the Way. So make sure your theology is accurate to the philosophy that you spew. Okay, dear brother, thoughts here.
Well, God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. And I agree with Pastor Brother Justin Pearson, and I rebuke the Rep Michelle Renault in the name of Jesus. Where did that even come from? Is this a part and chapter in Project 2025 that I didn't get to with the 900 plus, where they're going to bring back slavery and they're trying to do so? She really did not have to answer with that, by the way. She didn't have to give that answer. She could have given any other answer and it would have been on par. But she had to go and say, this is why slavery was okay. We just said God is good all the time, but especially during slavery. That is not what the Bible says. Am I out there chopping off my wife's hand because she grabbed my genitalia during a fight? Probably not. Am I selling my daughter into slavery where she can't be freed after 6 years because I owe a debt to my neighbor? Probably not. Am I justifying Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes by saying, well, we're supposed to eat the blood and body of Christ, and therefore when he was eating his party goers, he was just trying to be a good Christian? Definitely not. What I'm saying is, stop justifying evil in the name of God. Only do good.
Yeah. You know, God gave you independence and more clarity of self so that you can understand that more clarity should apply to others. If you don't want it to happen to you, maybe you should not want it to happen to somebody else. If you are in the Atlanta area, tonight is the Georgia gubernatorial debate. I am the invited moderator. I encourage you to come. 7 p.m. we start. Try to get there early enough for parking. Our big homie and dear brother, friend of the program, Pastor Jamal Bryant, has dedicated his facility, the church, to do this. They have a really remarkable media operation there as well, giving us access to streaming also. I'll put up that flyer one more time. If you would like to stream it, if you're not in the Atlanta area, if you want to stream it starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight, you can do so. Jara G.O., Jara G.O., and the QR code is there. It will live stream tonight beginning at 7 p.m. Looking forward to it. Okay, that's some comments. I'll read as many as I can. Dex says, somebody knows this woman. Help her before she gets hurt. Yeah. I mean, flexing like that, acting as if you have a gun, and you already ready for an intervention. Let's put it that way. DB Hawk 3, thank you for that. Ooh, that Wappy got fired from her job for that. That's right. RJL Network, the Karenicity is strong in this one. And Robert 03 PK, your founding father was a crook. That's correct. Tone Loc 3000, the Constitution is not the Bible. It is a living document that is meant to be changed and evolve, unlike religion. Always is looking back, game over. You are correct. The Constitution was created to be a breathable living document because the amendment process is codified in the Constitution, which allows it to evolve with the culture. That is correct. And I think this is OUO, thanks. Why are legislators quoting the Bible? This isn't a church, right? And there's still the separation of church and state as the governing Supreme Court ruling. We brought you this story, young man, citizen, killed by ICE, okay? And should not have died. Story of why he was killed, likely fabricated by ICE, contrary to the witness testimony. The mother of the victim has now spoken out, a Trump supporter who does not blame Trump. Here it is.
Just don't understand why it had to be this way.
Rachel Reyes' son, 23-year-old American citizen Ruben Ray Martinez, was killed by an ICE agent nearly 1 year ago.
I was devastated and disbelief. And it's bad enough to lose your child, but then to lose your child at the hands of law enforcement when they're supposed to be the ones to protect your child.
ICE's involvement in Martinez's killing in March of 2025 was only publicly revealed in February, roughly 11 months later. Martinez was out celebrating his birthday with his best friend Joshua Orta in South Padre Island. ICE says one of its agents fired defensive shots into Martinez's vehicle after Martinez intentionally ran over another ICE agent.
Is that something you think your son would have done?
Absolutely not. No, of course not. He was not a violent person. He was not aggressive.
DHS's account was disputed by Orta, who said in a draft declaration that his friend did not hit anyone. Reyes says she has deep respect for law enforcement. She also supported President Trump in the 2024 election, but she says change is desperately needed.
I don't blame President Trump for the death of my son because he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, but I do think that something needs to be changed in that department as far as the pattern of violence or abuse and impunity. Based on the statement that they made, seeing how the words that they chose to put out there about my son, that's as insult to injury.
Put it up, full mass. Rachel Reyes' son was 23 years of age, an American citizen. His name was Ruben Ray Martinez. He was shot and killed by a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent nearly 1 year ago. But she said she's still trying to understand why. Quote, I just want to know what happened, why they feel it was justified. And I honestly don't believe that. I'm not a mother in denial. I'm just a mother in doubt because I know my son and I know he's not a threat, end quote, Reyes told CBS News during her first TV interview since her son's death. Quote, I think just knowing the truth will give me closure, she added. During the interview, which took place on the 28th of February, Reyes said she had not received any videos, evidence, or official reports related to her son's killing. On Thursday, after CBS News submitted a series of questions, including about her comments, a spokesperson for the Texas Department of Public Safety said the agency had completed its investigation and that it would release records related to the shooting sometime Friday. Reyes, an American citizen and raised in Texas, said her family has deep respect for law enforcement officials and noted she voted for Donald Trump in 2024. But she said the federal government urgently needs to reform how immigration agents conduct their duties. Quote, I don't blame President Trump for the death of my son, because he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, Reyes said. But I do think that something needs to be changed in that department as far as the pattern of violence or abuse and impunity. Can we put her and son's picture back up just for a moment? I have to be very careful how I navigate this because I can't imagine losing a child. So, ma'am, regardless of your politics, I have a heart for you. And I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm really sorry this happened to you. The answers that you are seeking are in front of you. The answers that you are seeking are in front of you. And your statement of not blaming Donald Trump, this is not about blame. This is about holding the person or the policy in proper context so that you can appropriately advocate justice for your son. Policy creates cause and effect. It is the singular policy of one man that caused this, and that happens to be Donald Trump. Because without Donald Trump's policy, you do not get ICE working domestic situations. But because of his policy, ICE is now domestic federal police de facto. Okay? Not about blame. It is about you becoming the advocate for your son that you already are. Okay? Despite her support of Trump, the Latino community opinion is shifting. According to a November Pew Research poll, about 2/3, 68%, almost 70% of U.S. Hispanics say their situation today is worse than 1 year ago. And just 9% say it is better. 65% of Latinos disagree with this administration's approach to immigration. And a majority, 52%, said they are worried that a family member or a close friend could be deported, a 10-point increase since March. Trump's net favorability rating among Hispanics is now at 28%, per a recent poll through The Economist and YouGov, 13 points lower than it was in February of last year, roughly the same time last year. All right, Tehran, thoughts?
Well, first of all, of course, my condolences to the families as often as we need to, unfortunately, give condolences to families. Rachel Reyes says, still trying to understand why this happened. Racism, madam, racism is why it happened. Current policy is why it happened. An unfortunate culture of deception when it comes to police, agency, and authority in this country is why it happened. And ultimately, President Trump and his current policies is why it happened. When people testify, well, immigration was deporting more people under Obama or under Biden, you might be correct, but the brutality and violence wasn't there. It's the idea of not just what you're doing, but how you're doing it. Institutionalizing brutality is the problem. Going after only one group of people consistently, because the key words to Ruben Martinez was American citizen. Why are ICE agents killing American citizens? That is the question we need to all be asking ourselves. And as a couple of my fellow comedians say, I'll be honest, Dr. Ritchie, I need to find me a Trump girl because their unwavering loyalty, even in the face of proof, is amazing. Yeah. Like, I'll just be like, I don't blame Tehran for cheating. I blame the people he cheated with. I love that. I need some of this in my life. I need to find me a Rachel Reyes. I need that kind of love.
Brother, you'll never grow to your fullest capacity with that kind of past, brother. So just know that. All right. We need to be challenged sometimes to live our higher self. Super mayor, as she dubbed herself, Tiffany Kenyard. We've reported on her before. She was on Roland Martin's show. We highlighted that. Shout out to my big homie, Roland Martin. She has now relocated to my neck of the woods, Atlanta, Georgia. And according to the latest news report, she wants to run for commissioner here. Put it up full mass. Okay. Tiffany Kenyard, the controversial politician out of Illinois, who dubbed herself super mayor, has relocated to Metro Atlanta, now wants to serve on the Fulton County Commission. Kenyard is running as a Republican. This is a real story. She's the lone GOP candidate for the South Fulton County's District 5. It is literally one of the blackest districts in the county. Put it back up. So she is running as Republican in South Fulton District 5, Atlanta, hoping to land a seat on the Fulton County Commission. Kenyard has a contentious history in politics. However, after she was ousted as mayor of Dolton, that's a Chicago suburb, following several years of controversy over her behavior and spending of taxpayer dollars, including a 2024 FBI corruption probe. Despite the probe, no charges were filed against her. A judge recently ruled that the former mayor has to pay $10,000 in unpaid rent in Illinois. So you have to wonder, what is the Republican Party saying about this? What do they have to say? This is not our issue. It's not on the side of the left here, all right? So far, the Fulton County GOP has not even mentioned her candidacy. Fulton County Commission District 5 encompasses the southern part of the county, which is overwhelmingly Democratic. So as Republican, Gillespie said, Kenyard has an uphill battle. Additionally, her newcomer status presents a bigger issue. Gillespie is a political scientist at Emory University, anticipates Democrats will exploit quote, I am known in the community and this person is a newcomer, yet who hasn't earned the trust to be able to, run credibly for this office, Gillespie said. Welcome to Atlanta. All right, Tehran, thoughts here.
Well, I do give her points for being so persistent. If it doesn't work in Dalton, let's move to Fulton. Next one might be Holton. Who knows? She likes those kind of Olton, Tolton, Colton names in towns that she ends up in. I will say that Fulton County, South County District 5 will probably not elect her. However, there is a place in Texas called Frisco, Texas, where I feel that a lot of the denizens may be very open to her type of policy. Tiffany Aynard is a distraction at best. I applaud her for being a part of civic duty, but I also reprimand that kind of thinking because it's dangerous rhetoric that she spews. She's the person that certain people point to when they say, but I have a Black friend and she said it's okay. So be mindful, be understandable, be respectful, but be full because she's full of, and you know what I was about to say.
Yeah, I really hope she gets an opportunity to debate the Democrat who currently occupies the seat. Let's get it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. All right. As I've been telling you, we have a big debate tonight. Georgia gubernatorial debate, Democratic gubernatorial debate taking place tonight at 7 p.m. You can come live. New Birth is the location. If you are not able to make it, you can scan the QR code, stream live on Jerigo, and we will begin promptly at 7 p.m. Our dear brother, Pastor Jamal Bryant, friend of the program, been on the show many times, a good friend, provided the New Birth facility for this. The partner who brought this and coordinated this is none other than a remarkable public servant, the Honorable Elena Sanders. Ms. Sanders, Newton County public servant and longtime community advocate, previously served as a Newton County commissioner, held leadership roles as vice chair, board commissioners, vice chair of the Public Facilities Authority, and many, many others. She also worked with the National Association of Counties and the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia while serving in local office. She currently serves as a board member of Newton County Family Connection and remains active in various organizations, including the 13th Congressional Federation of Democratic Women in partnership with Pastor Brian and New Birth. And that is why we have this amazing opportunity. And once again, you can tune in live. Dear sister, always good to talk to somebody who gives a damn about community and exhibits leadership wherever they go. How are you?
I am doing amazing. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. We only got a few minutes, so I want to make sure people understand why this election is so important in the state of Georgia, which has become a de facto battleground state. We have two U.S. senators from Georgia that are Democratic, Senator Warnock and Senator Ossoff. You now have an interesting slate of candidates in the Democratic primary that includes a former Republican who was elected statewide prior to becoming a Democrat. So this is a very interesting time in politics in Georgia.
This is why debates are so important, so that the voter can hear from their potential candidate. I always stress to come out and to hear what these candidates have to say. And as you stated, Dr. Ritchie, this is a very important election, not only at the governor's race, Secretary of State, and all the others that are on the ballot. But tonight, we're electing the highest position. We're actually going to be electing the highest position in the state of Georgia. And we're going to hear from those front runners, those candidates. All the candidates were invited. So I want to make sure I put that out there. Everyone was invited. But we're going to have 6 of the front runners based on the results of what they say in the state of Georgia. These are our front runners that will be here tonight. And we'll be able to hear from them, their plight, their platform, and what they actually stand for Georgia. And the great thing about it, majority of them are former electeds, are currently elected, besides one of them is a pastor. So we're going to hear what they have to say. It's going to be very interesting tonight.
Can you explain the connection between a statewide elected official and how that can impact other elections, including U.S. Senate, congressional?
We have to make sure we have the right person that's sitting in that office of governor, because they are connected to the federal government. Any funds that we receive, but we know right now our governor has not received, accepted the Medicaid, and we're having issues with that. Federal grants, anything that we have coming from the federal government goes to the governor's office, and as well as our redistricting. That is so very important. So we have to have the right person in place in leadership that understands government, for one, understands the needs of the state of Georgia, understand what the people needs in the state of Georgia, and has that compassion for the people. And I say that all the time, Dr. Ritchie. Anybody who goes into a public service office has to have compassion for the people, for number one, because that's who votes for them and put them in place. So we have to make sure when we're going to the polls, we are selecting the right person who's going to step in place and represent all of Georgia, no matter what their party is going to represent all areas of Georgia, from suburban to urban to rural.
Very well said. You remind me of how pivotal the Texas governor has been to Trump's attempted takeover. Yes. That if you play checkers, you never would have saw that coming. But if you understand chess, you know that the governor is in position to work directly with federal lawmakers and the president's office directly in order to either say yay or nay to the maps or the district lines that elect your federal representatives.
Yes, and also it affects the local government as well.
Right.
We're speaking about redistricting, how we actually receive our representatives on the local office, on the local jurisdiction. Because I always tell people here, your local government is very important as well. That's why it's also important to find the right person going to sit in place, because if they mess with those maps, these are the representation that we have on the local level here in those various counties and those various cities. So it's important that we pay attention to all gamut of the elected office of governor, because everyone could be affected, even with the dollars that are coming down to the local office, the local jurisdictions. We have to make sure somebody who understands what happens on the local level. And I always say this is not talking about any candidate. When a person starts on the local level, have held a local office or held a state office and going into a next position, they understand the needs of the people and they understand how this is all ran. And so it's important that we look at those different areas of who actually is running for office today.
Well said. Dear sister, I look forward to seeing you this evening. Greatly appreciate your continued leadership and dedication to open democracy.
Thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you tonight.
Thank you. All right, there you have it. Once again, you can tune in live starting at 7 p.m. Jordan, if we can get that digital flyer back up, the QR code is right there. We'd love to see you. If you are local in the Atlanta area, stop by. We'd love to see you, hug your neck, and take a picture with you, all right? Okay. Remember, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.
The God!
All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys. So huge news day. We're in the middle of a war with Iran, obviously. The casualties that we have incurred is apparently much, much higher than we've been led to believe. And we're gonna tell you about that. We're gonna tell you about Rogan and so many others turning against this war, calling it insane. We're gonna tell you about Megyn Kelly ripping Lindsey Graham's face off. So this is a wild times where right against right, and everyone has a different opinion on this. And then Piers Morgan takes on Dave Rubin, finally finds out he's a snake. I mean, I'm gonna say it a couple of times, but told you. Right? So, okay, we'll get to all of that. And remember, everybody, I'm gonna tell you this a couple of times today too. So on Friday, special power panel, second hour, myself, Senator Nina Turner, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay, that is a hell of a power panel. That's on Friday. Tonight, at the end of the show at 8 o'clock, we have Operation Joy, of course, where we turn it around completely and bring joy into the world. All right, Casper.
Well, I wanted to begin with some of the latest polling on this ongoing war with Iran, along with some of the crazier statements that we've been hearing from Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff. Let's get right to it.
If they have children, think about what this world would look like if you didn't have Donald Trump as the president. Because in a year, if you had someone who didn't have the courage to do this action, you'd have 30 or 40 nuclear bombs. And what would the world look like there? So thank God we have a president and leadership at the helm that makes these courageous decisions.
Just one vicious lie after the next from Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, who was responsible for meeting with the Iranians indirectly, actually, to come up with a peace deal that, wow, shockingly did not come to fruition. Could it be because Witkoff really had no interest in a peace deal to begin with? I don't know. Now, there he is lying about Iran supposedly having the capacity to build literally dozens of nuclear bombs. But nonetheless, public opinion polls are so dire for the president's war against Iran that the aides working for him are now urging him to find an exit ramp. Before we get to all of that and more, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, in this case, I have 3 cents. One is you're gonna see that the Republicans still seem to be holding with Trump, but there's actually a softness to those numbers. I'm gonna show you what I mean by that softness and why it could crumble right away. Number 2, there's a number in here among all the different polls we're gonna show you that is startling. You're gonna tell your family and friends about it tonight, so don't miss that. And finally, we did our own poll that you guys financed. Does America owe Israel any more money? Wait till you see the results of that.
So let's actually begin with the latest polling. And there's been a number of polls that have come out that I think are worth looking into. I'll start with the New York Times, which basically did this aggregate of polls to kind of show this fun graphic that indicates the support for US military intervention in the first days of the Iran wars, super low compared to previous conflicts, okay? So as you can see here, the Iran war has just 41% support among the American people. Juxtapose that with the 97% support Americans had for the US entering the fight in World War II. 92% of Americans supported the 2001 invasion into Afghanistan. Obviously, that was after the 9/11 terror attacks that took place. And then even the super unpopular war in Iraq, which most Americans now say was a massive mistake, you know, the war that we entered in 2003, even that had 76% support. Fast forward to the first few days of the Iran war, and you see, again, only 41% of Americans are behind it. Now, the latest Quinnipiac poll also has some pretty damning results. For instance, 53% of voters oppose the US military action against Iran, while 40% support it. Again, this is Gallup. And it is strange that the percentage of individuals who are against the war in Iran isn't higher, especially when you consider this. 77% of voters think it is either very likely at 33% or somewhat likely at 44% that there will be a terrorist attack on US soil in response to the US military action against Iran. I would say that a higher percentage of Americans should be against the war if that's genuinely what they think. More Americans are also, opposing the idea of sending troops to Iran. 74% of voters oppose sending US ground troops into Iran, while 20% support it. Those 20% are un-American and enemies of our country. A majority of voters, 55%, do not think Iran posed an imminent threat or military threat to the United States before the current US military action against Iran. By the way, 74% of Republicans sadly think that Iran did pose an imminent threat to the United States, which just isn't true. Iran did not have the military capability or the missiles necessary to reach the United States. But I think this shows you just how much media propaganda has a hold on the American people. Because if you're watching Fox News, you will definitely think that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States. Further, 63% of voters say that Trump has not provided a clear explanation for why we are at war with Iran. And then finally, Cenk, this is what I find to be the most devastating, because I think this percentage is too low. 44% of voters think the US is too supportive of Israel, while 5% think the US is not supportive enough of Israel. And 44% think the US support of Israel is about right. So equal percentages think that it's either too much support or just about right, the right amount of support. I think that having a foreign country control our foreign policy has been not only to the detriment of the United States, I think it has destroyed the United States and driven us into a massive amount of debt. And by the way, Gallup is just one of many polls, I should note, that demonstrate the lack of popularity that Trump seems to enjoy overall when it comes to his foreign policy decisions in his second term. Nonetheless, Cenk, 44%, too low, right?
Yeah, it is, but I mean, it's a giant sea change of a difference. So let me break it down one by one. On the support for Israel, it used to be sky high. There used to be almost no support for the Palestinians. Why? Because traditionally national media reported things 100% from Israel's perspective. The poor Israelis are terrorized by the Palestinians, who are all terrorists, and poor Israel needs our help, etc. And the Palestinians are such vicious, aggressive, genocidal freaks. They want to kill all the Israelis, right? So now if you grew up watching that, you would think, well, of course I'm against the Palestinians and I'm in favor of the poor victims, the Israelis. Now, of course, the reality is that it's not true at all. The Israelis occupy the Palestinians, not vice versa. We've been over this many times, but that's exactly what's happening here. Online media is starting to tell you the truth. It's actually national media that have been lying to you throughout, right? So now as more and more people get the real truth, and by the way, they go to verify it. You could go online now and do your own research. Before, I mean, Anna, I grew up in an era where there was no internet. You couldn't do your own research. So if Jake Tapper told you Israel's the greatest, most moral country in the world and they're being abused and the Palestinians are dirty terrorists, you literally had no way of looking that up. So everyone believed it, right? So it started out at like 100 to 0. So that's why it coming to a tie now is shocking for the people who support Israel. They're like, how could this be? We are the immortal victims, right? So it's an enormous sea change, and it's only going in one direction. It's never gonna go back to, oh yeah, let's support that state that committed a genocide with our money, which drove us into this war, got so many of our troops killed, injured, etc. So the support for Israel is decaying at a rate I have never seen on any other issue. Okay, so now let's go to the softness for the Republicans that I talked about. So about 3/4 of Republicans still support this war. They bought into the the propaganda. Oh, like it's an imminent threat, and Donald Trump is protecting us, etc. Now 3/4 sounds like a bad number. Like where's the MAGA Civil War and all that stuff? On the other hand, guys, it used to be in the 90s. So now 1/4 of even Republicans are questioning this war. Second of all, a lot of people forget, almost everybody forgets in almost every one of these articles, Trump had a lot of independent voters, a ton of independent voters. And the independent voters are gone, right? They're not like the Republicans. They're massively against this war, right? Secondly, in the Republican numbers, there's huge softness. Number one is, now when you ask them about ground troops, a majority of Republicans go, oh, hell no, no, with ground troops. They didn't say that during the Iraq war. They didn't say that in other wars. But now they're not just watching Fox News, they're also watching Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and so many other shows that are online, and they're now finally getting two different points of view. And when you get the correct point of view and the incorrect point of view, it really becomes exceedingly obvious which one is right and which one is not. The Fox News side can't describe any real threats to America. The other side explains why this is all about Israel. So the other side has all of the facts. But Anna, you're right. Later in the show, we're going to show a clip of Lindsey Graham on Fox News. And again, if you're in that boomer class that's watching Fox News, which is a big number of Republicans, a lot of older voters, right? They watch Lindsey Graham telling them, oh my God, Iran was going to have 11 nuclear warheads they could fire at America within weeks.
Yeah.
So if you watch that and you really believe it, you're like, oh, thank God President Trump saved us from San Antonio and Albuquerque getting nuked. Because Lindsey Graham told me it was weeks away, and Sean Hannity agreed. He saved our lives because they don't know any better, right? But even so, it's solved.
Okay, well, Fox News has been around. Look, I get that I vacillate from being empathetic to right now I'm not going to be very empathetic, but Fox News has been around since the 1990s, correct?
Yeah, 90s.
And Netanyahu has been fear-mongering about Iran's supposed nuclear capability since like the late 80s. So like, I don't get it. To the Fox News audience, if any of them happen to be watching this, which I doubt, aren't you tired of pooping in your depends over non-existent threats? Like seriously, consider that. Consider the fact that you've heard the same lies over and over again for literally decades. But look, they'll be long gone because Fox News' audience, of course, is much older. And when they're long gone, the rest of us will be here to pick up the massive mess left behind by, destroying our economy, by getting involved in these ridiculous interventions, not on our own behalf, not because it benefited the United States or the American people, but because it was demanded from us by a foreign country that pays off our politicians or blackmails them if they're unwilling to be bought. That's what's really going on here. Yeah. But anyway, let's talk about what Trump knows, because last week there was some concern that his aides were misleading him, that they weren't showing Trump the polling that indicated that he is actually losing whatever's left of his popularity as a result of getting dragged into these interventions. Well, now the Wall Street Journal says that his aides have in fact briefed him on some polling about the war. Public polls released in recent days, the Wall Street Journal wrote, show that most Americans oppose the war. But here's how White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt responded to that. While many in the president's conservative base still support the initial operation, oh, sorry, this is from the Wall Street Journal. This isn't Leavitt's quote, but the journal notes, while some in the president's conservative base still support the initial operation, some of the president's advisors have privately expressed concerns that a longer war could deplete that support. But as far as what they're saying publicly, especially when it comes to Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, she says the vast majority of Americans support ending the threat posed by the Iranian regime and support killing terrorists. And that's what President Trump is going to accomplish. Okay, let's talk about what President Trump has accomplished so far in Iran. He has accomplished the bombing of an elementary school, killing 160 plus little girls and about 14 adults who happen to work at the school. He has managed to, I guess, decapitate the regime by taking out Ali Khamenei, who was then replaced by his son, who is a hardliner, much more hardline than his father was. And on top of that, just had several members of his family executed thanks to the United States and Israel. So he's gonna be even more, I mean, that's the reason why they chose him. He's potentially gonna be even more vicious, right? So what exactly did we accomplish here? We didn't accomplish anything other than forcing the American people to go deeper into debt to the tune of $1 to $2 billion a day. That's how much it's costing us to fight Israel's war. Be clear on that. Be informed on that. Know what you're getting yourself into when you support Trump's ridiculous interventionism. On top of that, one thing that's clear is that Trump has no idea what he's doing, Cenk. Last week, he said that Iran needs to surrender unconditionally, otherwise the war would not end. On Monday, he told the New York Post that even though earlier he said he was considering ground troops, now he's not considering it at all. Later that same day, Trump said that, the war could be over very soon. It could be over very soon. And then later that night, he said, we could go further and we're going to go further. So he is speaking from both sides of his mouth. He has no clear objective or goal here. And it seems that Trump is a better representative of the Israeli people as opposed to the American people, because take a look at this. So this compares US support for the war in Iran versus Israeli support. And as you can see, when it comes to Americans, 36% approve, 54% disapprove of military intervention in Iran. But the numbers are very different for the Israelis. 82% approve, 13% disapprove. And if you're wondering where these poll numbers come from, the top poll representing Americans was done by NPR PBS Marist from March 2nd through the 4th. And the Israeli polling was carried out by the Israel Democracy Institute from March 2nd through the 3rd. Cenk, back to you.
Yeah, so some of those Israelis rethinking that now that they're hiding in their shelters and crying about bombs hitting Israel. We'll share that with you later in the show. Look, another reason why the numbers are soft, when you ask about gas prices, 74% are concerned that the war is going to cause higher gas prices, and they're going to be mad about it. So, including a very large chunk of Republicans. Trump overall on almost every issue, from the economy to immigration to this war, is 20 points underwater. Guys, don't sleep on that. Those are disastrous numbers. When Biden was near those numbers, I said that he had a 0% chance of winning, and that turned out to be correct. And Trump is in big trouble. A lot of the press is scared of him, so they don't report it as they should. The reality is he's at maximum Biden dementia levels of bad polling. So that these numbers are super soft. By the way, over 3/4 of Americans say no ground troops, including a significant majority of Republicans. Now, the shocking, devastating number. So when we first went into the Iraq war, it had a popularity of 76%. That's because almost all of our politicians and almost all of our media lied and said that Iraq had attacked us on 9/11 and they had weapons of mass destruction. Oh my God, we're gonna get nuked. Just like you saw Steve Witkoff say the same lies over and over again. But they said those lies for so long that over 3/4 of the country wanted to go in. Now, for Iran war, we started at 41%. That is unbelievably low, okay? And that's the higher of the two numbers that we showed you, right? But what did we end the Iraq war on? Remember, at the end of the Iraq war, after we've been there about a decade, and we lost so many guys, so many injured, it was a giant mess. We spent trillions of dollars, and it was so unpopular that we had to leave. At that point, Iraq war's popularity was 43%, higher than where the Iran war started. So the minute we start taking significant casualties, which we now have reports that 150 Americans have been wounded, that just dropped right before the show. That's a big number that they were hiding, let alone the 7 dead, etc. And the gas prices continue to go up. This is gonna go from 41 to a number we've never seen, right? So this is a disaster in the making. Now, one of the reasons that, of course, we're pushed into this war, not one of the, oh, by the way, I should also note, and I mentioned all the flip-flopping of Donald Trump. Senator Blumenthal came out of a top intelligence briefing and said, it looks like we're getting ground troops ready. So there's a lot of yip yap and talking. But the bottom line is, what's the war planning? And Senator Blumenthal is saying they're planning on ground troops. So that's the important part. Now, all of this, of course, is for Israel. And so we have no interest in Iran at all. And if we did, we don't anymore. We wiped out everything they had related to nukes, their regime, their ballistic missiles, their navy, etc. The only people left dissatisfied are the Israelis, who say keep pushing and pushing and spend all your money for us, as Anna pointed out, 1 to 2 billion a day for this war alone. All right, so we asked, I asked this question when I was on Tucker Carlson's show. And then I asked if mainstream media will ask it, and they're like, no, you cannot ask Americans if they support Israel. It's an outrageous thing to do in terms of financially, because that's the only thing that matters. Are we gonna keep sending them money? Or we're gonna keep using our money to back them up militarily, right? So of course, none of them did that poll, as we suspect. So I asked you guys to finance it, and you did. You're amazing. So we did a real poll with YouGov. Over 1,000 people answered it, about the same number of Republicans and Democrats. In fact, they leaned a little bit more Republican in this poll. And we asked a simple question: should the US continue to provide financial support for Israel? That is a position that has been very, very popular for as long as I've been alive. Or the US doesn't owe Israel any more money, or not sure. 21%, as you're seeing on the screen there, say not sure. That's a big number, that's not sure. 49% say no, we do not owe Israel any more money. And only 30% say we should continue to financially support Israel.
Can I ask you something, Jake? Yeah. Hold on. Why do you use that wording? Because I need to understand if this is actually a thing. Why the hell would we ever owe any foreign country any money unless we did damage to their country and promised to repair things? Like, why would we owe Israel money?
Well, that's what all of mainstream media and all the politicians tell us, that we owe them. When we say, hey, why do we owe them? They go, special ally.
Anything. No, we don't owe them anything. Like, that wording is so triggering to me. We don't owe them jack, okay? Like that framing is wrong. I haven't heard that framing on mainstream media, by the way. I don't know where you've heard it.
No, Anna, it is implicit in every single thing they say. When you question, why do we have to give Israel all this money? They call you an anti-Semite and say, you owe us, how dare you question it? How dare you? Like, if we ask why do we owe money to Bulgaria or Thailand, literally no one would question that. That would be a very normal debate, discussion, etc. When you ask it about Israel, they're like, how dare you, right? Well, what does it mean, how dare I? So yeah, let me ask Americans, do we owe these guys? And why on God's green earth would we owe them, right? I'm actually, look, this is a real poll. We did it with YouGov, and I told you before we did it, we don't know what the results are gonna be. I'm actually surprised that it was only 49%. But that goes to the poll that we covered earlier in this segment, Anna, which is that support for Israel was so incredibly high because literally no one had ever heard a single critical thing about Israel for about 40 years straight in this country. Mainstream media lied to them en masse about how they were angelic victims as they continued to take more and more land. And mainstream media implied, you owe them, you owe them, you owe them. How dare you question whether you owe them, right? And now there's only 30% left saying, no, why? No, 30% say yes, we should financially support Israel. They're our beloved allies. That's a number. That's a number. It's a pretty low number, right? And 49, basically half the country going, we don't owe them a single cent. And 21% saying, I don't know, maybe we owe them. So that's the current state of affairs. If you'd done that poll a couple of years ago, you would have had financially support Israel at 70, 80%. I've never seen numbers deteriorate this quickly.
Yeah, it turns out people don't enjoy watching a genocide live stream for 2.5 years. But anyway, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about Rogan's latest comments and debate over this war in Iran. And we'll also get into the latest numbers when it comes to US casualties. We'll be right back.
All right, guys, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Look, we're trying to do so much more for you guys. We're literally give you 10 more minutes of show now. We've switched to 2-minute ad breaks. If you're a YouTube member, go to tyt.com/connect to connect your 2 membership accounts, the YouTube account and the tyt.com account, because the tyt.com account allows you to watch the members only video stream where you're not getting the ads. You're getting me reading your super chats, your YouTube member comments, and the member comments from all across. And then I've got an update from one of our YouTube members, and then I'll kick it back over to Anna for the news. Dovesland wrote in, my aunt called 2 nights ago. Her youngest grandson just finished boot camp, and he was just told that he's being deployed to Iran. We are all scared for him, and I'm pissed off even more than I was. So there you have it. People from the actual audience saying the deployment to Iran has begun. So, oh boy.
It's disgusting, disgusting, absolutely disgusting. By the way, look, whatever you might think about Candace Owens, just put that aside for a second and just focus on what I'm about to say. She was getting attacked because she was providing links, resources for our soldiers who want to be conscientious objectors and not be deployed to fight a war on behalf of a foreign country. She was getting attacked viciously for sharing that resource. It's just, the entitlement, it disgusts me. The entitlement to human lives on behalf of a foreign country disgusts me beyond words. But anyway, why don't we talk a little bit about someone else who seems to be very much against this war, and that happens to be Joe Rogan.
But just seems so insane based on what he ran on. I mean, this is why a lot of people feel betrayed, right? He ran on no more wars and these stupid, senseless wars, and then we have one that we can't even really clearly define why we did it.
It does appear that Joe Rogan is becoming more and more vocal against the Trump administration's foreign interventions. In this case, he's speaking out against the war against Iran, of course, on behalf of Israel. And he even got into a fiery debate with his guest, Michael Schellenberger, over whether or not this war is about doing what's right for the US versus Israel. But before we get to all of that, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so look, I said in the beginning that the independent hosts have no reason to just toe the line for Donald Trump. It's a different environment than it used to be. Before, when they worked for Fox News, they'd get paid $20 million a year, so they had all the reason in the world to lie to you. But Rogan's already independently wealthy, he doesn't have to lie. So that is why now you're seeing all of the podcasters, Dylan, Schultz, Theo Vaughn, and now Joe Rogan, telling you it as it actually is, and not BSing you. They said anti-war, and I'm relieved to find out they meant anti-war. Wait till you see what he says here.
So, as I mentioned earlier, his guest is Michael Schellenberger. He's an author and journalist. And in this next clip, they discuss, or I should say debate, whether or not Israel has an outsized influence over US foreign policy. Take a look.
The whole older system was that you had this international, the Security Council would have to agree, the Congress would have to agree. That's all gone now. I mean, it's just a totally different, this guy is just acting. He says he's not getting where they want to get in the negotiations with the Iranians. So he says, we have some leverage over you and we're going to use it. Similarly,
but clearly Israel wanted this.
Israel has its own motivations, I think.
Yeah.
But I think it's not quite accurate to say that. I just don't think, I think all the evidence shows that Trump is his own man and he's the president. Trump is doing what he wants to do. And we should.
You really think it's that simple? Trump's doing what he wants to do, and that's it?
Yes.
You don't think people are influencing him? Because there's a lot of war hawks around him, right? There's a lot of people that want this
Tucker
and have
was in
for
there,
a long
right?
time.
I mean, Netanyahu's in there, but then Tucker was in there a bunch.
But do you think
making the case against it?
Tucker has the kind of influence that Netanyahu has?
Well, I mean, I guess if you just base it on the outcome, then the answer is no.
No.
I think Michael Schellenberger is a lot smarter than he is making himself out to be. I'll just leave it there.
No, I won't leave it there.
Comments.
Can I jump in? Yeah. No.
Like, that's ridiculous. Really, Israel's not influencing Trump, really? Oh yeah, Miriam Adelson handed over $300,000 to the Trump campaign just out of the kindness of her own. I'm sorry, 300 million. Jesus Christ. It always blows my mind. Our democracy is a farce. We don't really live in a democracy. The fact that a single couple can give the president of the United States $300 million for his campaign, that should be illegal, but it's not. Corruption is baked into our system. But anyway, do you really think that the Adelsons were just going to hand over $300 million for no reason? They're not expecting anything in return. Come on, Michael, you're smarter than that, Michael. Come on, you know you are. I don't know why you're pretending to be dumb, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know if Michael is smart at all. There's a chance he's an idiot.
No, I know Michael. I know Michael personally. He's not a dumb guy. But
all right, well then he's acting dumb and he's a liar.
Yeah.
So that's a bigger problem. So I don't know him from Adam, and I don't want to know him because what he was saying there is absurd and is an attempt to deceive the American people. Look, I get it that some people genuinely believe that, but they're so they've almost brainwashed themselves. Oh, Israel has no influence, no influence. It's anti-Semitic that they say that they have influence. Are you lunatics? Are you lunatics? You think the $300 million doesn't affect them? Number one lifetime donor to Joe Biden, Mike Johnson, Schumer, Jeffries. No, it doesn't affect them. $100 million, number one lobby group in the last election, sent to 94% of Congress, and that doesn't affect them because the politicians are so moral and holy? No, it's an untenable position, and these morons or liars in mainstream media keep telling you it's not Israel, it's definitely not Israel, in a way that makes you wonder, what are you guys doing? What are you up to? I really question Michael Schellenberger and his motivations, right? I question your motivations because it is an impossible thing to say that Israel did not have a massive influence in this war. It's preposterous to say that.
The thing that's amazing about it, Cenk, is, and this has been an ongoing thing that's making me more and more agitated. So people will be like, why are you always yelling? Why are you so angry all the time? Because here's the thing, okay? You will have members of the Israeli government telling you exactly what they're gonna do, and then they do it. And then all I do is say, hey, these Israeli government officials said that they were gonna do something, and then they did it. And I get in trouble. You get called an anti-Semite for pointing that out. No, that's not what it's not a genocide, even though they kept saying we're gonna do a genocide. We're gonna like slaughter every single Palestinian in Gaza. Okay. In the case of Israel's influence on Donald Trump, Trump literally ran as an anti-war candidate in 2016, in 2020, in 2024. Okay, he was pressured like crazy by Benjamin Netanyahu to go to war with Iran in his first term. He resisted. And then you have our own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, saying on the record, well, Israel was going to strike and our soldiers in the region are sitting ducks, so we had no choice and we decided to strike first. He said that. So in other words, Israel dragged us into this war. To claim that you don't think Israel had an influence on Trump is just, first of all, demonstrably false, of course, but also, yeah, you're right, Cenk. Either you're lying or you're playing dumb or both. I don't know, but it needs to stop. It needs to stop. You lose your credibility when you literally have our own government officials saying and admitting on the record, we got dragged into this war because of Israel. And then you have people, a self-described journalist saying, no, I don't think Israel had anything to do with it. I think that Trump is his own man.
Yeah, and I want to point out a different lie, and I get it that maybe they don't think they're lying. Like nobody looks at themselves in the mirror and thinks I'm the bad guy, right? And so they've gotten themselves to believe, and probably because they're so worried about anti-Semitism spreading, so they're like, so let's actively lie and say that Israel has no control, no power, no influence at all, because otherwise people will become anti-Semitic. So we have to just all lie in unison. They think subconsciously, but look at the second lie. So he says, now you know Donald Trump's his own man. Of course, everybody knows that. Really? When Qatar gave him a $400 million jet, he seemed like he was way friendlier to Qatar. When people give him money into his cryptocurrency, they get a get out of jail free card. Like Donald Trump is the easiest man in the world to influence. All you have to do is give him money and he'll do whatever you want. But yet Michael whatever his name is, Schlappenberger, okay, comes out and he's like, oh, Donald Trump is his own man. All of a sudden he's his own man? When you've been criticizing him all along for all the bribes he took and all the money he was influenced by. But when it comes to Israel, no, wait, it was only Donald Trump, only America. Don't ever blame beloved Israel. No, you guys are, it's a full mask off moment. They look ridiculous. In the old days when they had a monopoly on media and they could just stamp anti-Semite on anyone and just cancel them forever, they had complete monopoly of the airwaves. Now that they do not have a monopoly, they look so unbelievably stupid to the rest of us.
But by the way, Jake, even the old guard, and I'm talking about like the war cheerleaders, historically speaking, Wall Street Journal is a good example of that, right? Even they are publishing incredible reporting about how Senator Lindsey Graham kept meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu and basically coaching him on what to say to Donald Trump to convince him to get involved in the Iran war. That was a huge story that just got published. So look, it's just the truth matters. The truth matters. Your personal opinion on the war, if you like the war and you support the war, then just say it. But you don't have to lie about why we're involved in the war in the first place or why Trump got dragged into doing this in the first place. You have to be honest with your audience, especially if you use the label of journalist. There's a responsibility that comes along with that. Now, all of us get things wrong time to time. That's totally okay. But this is a life and death type situation. This has to do with our country sending our soldiers into a conflict that we should not be part of. And we have to be able to spell out why it is we're involved in the first place. That's all I'm saying. All right, I want to get to the second half of this story and I'll reset for it because this is a big deal. And this is what I mean when I say this is a life and death situation. Actual human lives are on the line. And if you don't care about the lives of Iranians, which I absolutely do, and everyone should, you should at least care about the lives of our soldiers. So let's do it.
Reuters has reported that about 150 U.S. service members have been injured so far. Can you confirm that number and elaborate on that?
I can't confirm the exact number. I know it's within that ballpark.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was confronted with an incredibly important question by a Reuters reporter. And here's what a new report found by Reuters. As many as 150 US troops have been wounded in the 10-day-old war with Iran. And that's according to two people familiar with the matter who spoke with Reuters about it. Now, prior to Reuters' publication of the figure, the Pentagon had only disclosed that 8 US personnel were seriously injured. And that goes to a point that we've been making on this show repeatedly, that we suspect the United States government is withholding information and data when it comes to US casualties in the Middle East right now. And probably because of the fact that the war is incredibly unpopular, was unpopular from the jump. And hearing about more of our soldiers either getting wounded or killed is not going to bode well for the Trump administration. In a statement after Reuters published its report, the Pentagon estimated the figure to be approximately 140 wounded and said the vast majority of them were minor. But at this point, considering the fact that they were withholding information from us, can we really trust the Pentagon to tell us the truth? I certainly don't, and I wouldn't take their word for it. And I'm worried, Cenk, that this goes beyond troops just merely being wounded, which is bad enough. I'm worried that more of our troops have died, but we just don't know about it yet. According to Reuters, according to the Pentagon, I should say, 108 only suffered small injuries and they have already returned to duty.
Yeah, so let me read a couple of super chats here because they've kind of channeled what I'm thinking. R. Stone said, I want out of this toxic ass relationship with this foreign country. It's dangerous to everybody's health. Where's the Surgeon General warning label? Well, now we find out that it's been dangerous to a lot more people's health. 150 wounded. Well, why were you saying 8 a minute ago?
Yeah.
Well, that's because you're hiding the number of casualties. And by the way, casualties means both killed and injured, right? And why were you hiding the number of casualties? Because you don't want people to find out that all these people got hurt on behalf of Israel, because that is going to play very, very poorly among the American people, and it is right now. In fact, Gen X Warrior 9 wrote in on Super Chat as well, I'm an America First conservative, and I completely agree with you on this issue. Trump has failed the American people with this BS. And he wrote out BS, trust me. Okay, so look guys, you got lied into this war, but you still didn't want it, only 41%. By the way, I should give that important explanation of the 41% number that we did in the earlier segment. So 41% going into the war in terms of popularity for the war is already terrible. But that's after the war started, and there's a rally the flag component that happens after any war starts. And so it got up to 41%. The number used to be as low as 25 to 15% before we went in, right? So this is as unpopular a war as we have ever seen. And the more gas prices go up, and much more importantly, the more casualties we have, the more unpopular it becomes. And when you go to explain why, and you go to your nonsense standard, take it off the shelf, neocon talking points for Iraq, oh, weapons of mass destruction, they are about to have nukes, where they know we already destroyed their facilities, on and on. All those excuses are either A, were nonsense to begin with, but B, we've already knocked out everything they have. So why are we still there? And now anyone who doesn't watch television but gets their news online has access to reality and to actually stone cold facts. And everyone knows we're there because Israel has ordered us to be there. And we can't, and they won't order us to leave yet, but they're actually taking a lot of hits, which we're gonna talk about later in the show. And so they're starting to get skittish about this war that they desperately wanted. So the only way we're gonna leave is if Israel says, all right, forget your US casualties. Now Israel has taken some casualties, and those lives are of course worth way more than American lives or any other lives. So now you're allowed to withdraw, right? So Anna, we kind of have to wait for permission to withdraw from Israel.
Yeah, I mean, it's a daily humiliation ritual to see that our government, which takes a significant portion of our earnings out of our paychecks, is not representing us, but instead representing the best interests of a foreign country, is being swayed and influenced by a foreign country. It's wrong. It should be considered treasonous. But unfortunately, we live in a corrupt system that just, is trying to convince the American people this is normal. This is not normal, period. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about, the panic among Republican lawmakers about how this war is negatively impacting our economy and more. So stick around for that. We'll be right back.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Also, Anna LaPlante 50, thank you for joining. She hit that beautiful join button below the video on YouTube. You could also do it through tyt.com/join. And if you do it through our website or you connect to our website, then all the commercial breaks, you actually get me reading your comments from Super Chat, YouTube members, and members on our site. All right, Melody Loves Music, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. You're amazing as usual. And Hesi Finger 79, thank you for gifting a membership as well. And then guys, if you're starting up a website or a shop or a brand or any kind of store where you're gonna sell something, you gotta use Shopify. That's what we use. They've been fantastic to us, makes it much easier to sell. And honestly, throughout the years, they've gotten better and better and better. So now they've got a great offer for you guys. So sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/TYT. That's shopify.com/TYT. It's a great offer. And trust me, like we tried them all. Shopify is the best. So if you're gonna do a shop, do it with them. Anna, what's next?
So this isn't a full-blown story. I'll probably cover it in more detail tomorrow. But I just want to remind you all that Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of War, had said that the war against Iran has a religious meaning for him. This is about a fight on behalf of Christianity. Well, I'm here to inform you that the U.S. and Israel have struck one of the oldest Armenian communities in existence in Iran. They've been around for centuries. And if you don't know this, Armenians are overwhelmingly Christian. So good job, America. Anyway, let's move on to our next story.
Are we really saying that we cannot accept several weeks of oil prices maybe being higher than what they should be to take Iran off the map as a predator in the Middle East for decades to come? Is that what we're really saying? That we're so preoccupied with that we're not willing to make that kind of a sacrifice here? I think not. I mean, I think we got to open our eyes, get a little clear-eyed about what is really happening here. And if we fall prey to walking away on this prematurely over oil prices, we've just given Iran a win. They certainly want that.
Well, that's a great point.
No, that isn't a great point. And no, I'm not willing to deal with higher oil prices and inflation in order to risk and sacrifice our troops in the Middle East to fight Iran on behalf of Israel. That's my take. But apparently retired General Jack Keane disagrees with that take. And while I'm sure he's doing pretty well for himself, he thinks the rest of America should just grin and bear the economic turmoil that has already resulted from our involvement in this war in the Middle East, again, on behalf of Israel. But Cenk, your 2 cents?
Yeah, I couldn't tell if he had an American and Israeli flag on his pin. But that would be accurate at least because he obviously has dual loyalty. And you have to remember that a lot of our retired generals are crooks. And they work for defense contractors or as lobbyists, and they get paid to lie to you on television to start more wars. And Jack Keane, to me, looks like a guy who doesn't love this country at all and serves another country. So I'm not going to mince words about that, and I don't give a goddamn what he thinks and how, I'm so brave. Yeah, go be brave for Israel. Get back into the services and bring your sorry ass to the front line. Then I'll believe you, okay? Instead of starting wars from a distance. Anyways, as you're going to see here, this is going to do significant damage to our economy, but they'll tell us, no, suck it up for Israel. All right, go ahead, Anna.
So, look, publicly, you'll hear from Republican lawmakers who are kind of downplaying the economic pain that comes along with attacking a Middle Eastern oil-producing country like Iran. A country that controls the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of our oil and gas is transported through. So again, publicly, they'll downplay the impact of that. But privately, Republican lawmakers are absolutely panicking because their political careers are on the line. One anonymous House Republican spoke to Politico and said, if you are a Republican and not concerned right now, you are stupid. Hopefully, we will square this away sooner than later. Now, I just want to point to the cowardice of these lawmakers, because you'll notice that they were only willing to speak to Politico as long as their identities were withheld from the public. If this is what you genuinely think, you are elected to represent the people. So it is incumbent upon you to identify yourself and speak openly about what you actually think about this war against Iran. But nonetheless, he or she is not the only person who's concerned here. Politico asked another anonymous House Republican if the economic pain from the Iran war would undo any potential benefit from last year's big, beautiful bill, right? Where supposedly ordinary American workers got massive tax cuts. As we know, the majority of those tax cuts were concentrated at the very top with the highest earners. But working class Americans did get some tax cuts. Now, the Republican stated in response to that question, hell yes, meaning that this war is undoing the benefits of the big, beautiful bill. Further, this individual says, the most sensitive thing among most driving Americans is the price of gasoline. The person added, saying it threatens to send Americans right up the wall. I totally agree on that. There's also one Republican who's not hiding behind anonymity, and this individual deserves a lot of credit, and that's Rand Paul. Take a look.
I think the 2026 elections already, we are behind the 8 ball as far as the electoral process. I think if you add in high gas prices, high oil prices, and if we are still bombing Iran with kinetic action, people don't want to call it war, but if there's still kinetic action that causes oil to be over $100, I think you're going to see a disastrous election.
I think he's right about that. And look, to be fair to Rand Paul, he's usually pretty good on issues of war and peace, as I would say most libertarians are. I might not agree with their economic policies, but when it comes to avoiding these foreign entanglements, libertarians, for the most part, seem to be on the money. That's why Thomas Massie in the House is a registered Republican, but his ideology is more libertarian. That's why he doesn't want to spend all this money and get involved in a war that we shouldn't be involved in at all. Now, Republicans were planning to campaign on the big, beautiful bill, but the Iran banker Raymond James, almost all of the economic effects of the individual tax cuts in the big, beautiful bill, from both smaller withholdings and sweetened tax refunds, could be erased if oil prices remain elevated by more than $20 compared with prices before the US-Iran war. And if you're wondering, okay, well, how does the math work out? The Tax Foundation estimates that the individual tax cuts from the big, beautiful bill total $129 billion for 2025. And according to Raymond James, if oil prices remain $20 above what they were prior to the war, then consumers would pay about $150 billion in total on gas, so more in gas. And so higher oil prices combined with the fluctuating labor market are why some Wall Street analysts are predicting that stagflation could also be just around the corner. However, that's not the overall consensus just yet, so I don't want you guys to panic too much. Although, honestly, Cenk, when you look at inflation, how sticky it has been even prior to this war, when you consider the fact that inflation is set to be much worse, considering the fact that this war is sacrificing oil and gas supply, I don't really see a bright future when it comes to our economy. But who knows? Maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you think?
Yeah, no, we got nothing but disaster ahead. But I want to talk more specifically about the Strait of Hormuz and how it's driving up gas prices. So Donald Trump says, oh, what are people so worried about? You know what? You should risk your life and try to cross the Strait of Hormuz. Have some courage. Which I told you yesterday, my answer to Donald Trump would be, if I was on one of those tankers, you first. Okay, you come sit at the mast of our ship and pull a James Cameron, a Titanic, and go, I'm king of the world. I'm invading Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, and Greenland, right? Okay, and then we'll cross the Strait of Hormuz. But you're not gonna do that because it is risky, right? And then he says, okay, well, we'll guarantee your insurance. First of all, that insurance isn't gonna help the guy on the boat who's gonna be dead once the ship sinks. But okay, it's not him making the decision, it's the corporation. And that might affect the corporation's decision and that might work. But who's paying the insurance? Oh, right, we are as US taxpayers, right? So we pay for all the interceptor missiles, not just for our troops, In fact, not predominantly for our troops, predominantly for Israel. And we pay for all of our fleet being there. We pay for the war. Now we have to pay for insurance. And on top of that, we have to pay the higher oil prices. So when we tell you that the war is costing $1 to $2 billion a day, that does not include the price of gas and all the other consequences that flow from this war. So this war is costing us a fortune. And as we've told you in the past, the global war on terror was literally a global war on Israel's enemies. And so that cost us $8 trillion. And what's the benefit we got out of it? Zero. And you all know that now, right? Even the Republicans hated the Iraq war, the Afghanistan war, all this global war on terror junk cost this country so many good young men and trillions of dollars. And now everybody concedes that. Oh, by the way, did anyone get something out of it?